Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the fifth part in my series on how to make house music in Ableton Live 9. In this video, we're going to be looking at layers. Layers add more dynamic and texture to the song. The more layers you have, the more different effects you can hear, and you can add different things on each layer to that track. So we're going to start off with the percussion track, because that's the first thing we did. Now what we're going to do is duplicate this track by just simply right clicking, pressing duplicate, or just making sure we selected the track and pressing Ctrl D. So we're going to make 3 extra ones. As you see here, we have the original and then the 3 extras. Now we're going to remove everything on these 3 new tracks except for the kicks. So the way we're going to do this is press B, so we're in cursor mode, and I'm just going to drag out all the notes I can see, and if making sure I want to see all the notes, just go to the bottom, make sure that this part is fully selected, and there you have it. So now I'm just going to highlight all the notes and then click delete on my keyboard and do the same on these notes. So now I just have the kick. So I'm going to press shift tab to get out of this view, and you can see now on this drum rack I've just got the kick. Now instead of doing this on the other 3 tracks, what you can do is actually delete these new tracks we've just made by right clicking and pressing delete, and then just duplicating this one because it's the same track as the previous original drum rack, just with only the kick. So we duplicate this twice by pressing Ctrl D, pressing Ctrl D again. I've now got the original drum rack and then 3 others with just the kicks. So now what I'm going to go do is go to audio effects on the browser sidebar, and I'm simply just going to find EQ8, and I'm going to drag it on to the second drum rack, which is only the kick. Now you notice down here in the audio effects we have EQ8. So to make working a lot easier, we're just going to simply press minus on our keyboard, and we have to make sure that we have the drum rack and kick selected. So if we click minus, it will fold that up. So now it's in a lot smaller window, and if we want to make it bigger again, we just press plus when it's selected and it's bigger. So since we're concentrating on EQ8, we want to be looking at that. So now we want to make sure that we're on the 1 point by either clicking on the point or on the bottom here where it says 1. And now we're on the number 1 filter selector. We want to change the filter mode to this, which is the top, and it's a low cut. Now while being selected on 1, we just want to leave it at 30 Hz, make sure it's still there, and we want to change the Q to I'd say 0.7, and there you have it. So now you want to move on to the 2 and simply click the same icon as that, but just the opposite way around, so it's at the bottom. So you click that, and now we have this. So I suggest turning off 3 and 4 by simply clicking on the orange square, and now they're gone. So on 2, what we're going to do is it's at 200 Hz, but we're going to turn it down to 80. And there we have it. So now, if I solo this track by clicking on the S next to the track name, you might just be able to hear it. It's going to be a very low frequency. There you go. Before we move on, to make sure that we know which track is which, I'm just going to rename this track to Kick 80. Because then I know that the max frequency is 80. So we're going to move on to the next duplicated kick track. And on this one, we're simply just going to drag on another EQ8. Fold this. We could just simply right click and press fold. And we're going to concentrate on the EQ. Going to turn off 3 and 4 again, go back to 1, change the filter mode to what they were before, but we're going to move the frequency of the first point up to 80 and the frequency of the second point up to 200, and then we're going to change the Q to 1 on both of them. So now if I solo this track, this is what it sounds like. Rename this track by right clicking and pressing rename, and then call it Kick 200. Moving to the last kick track, and before I rename it all, just gonna fold this down, gonna drag EQ onto it and do pretty much the same again. Turn 3 and 4 off, go to 1, change the filter mode, go to 2, change the filter mode, but this time on the 1 I'm going to go to 200 Hz, and on the 2 I'm going to go to 1000, which is 1 kilohertz. So now when I solo this, it's very high pitch. Now we're actually going to duplicate this and make one more kick. And before we carry on, just going to rename that and call it kick 1000. And on this new one, we're going to go from 1, we're going to change the frequency on 1 to 1000, and the frequency on 2 to the maximum. So we can do that by simply making sure we're on 2 and then just dragging it out. And we're going to want to make sure that the Q is at 0.7 on both points, which it is. So now if we solo this track and we listen, a really high pitch noise. Now we're just going to rename it as per usual, kick max, in fact. So now we're going to group all the tracks together. So we're going to do this, we're just going to make sure we have all the percussion tracks selected, so hold Control down and click on each of them. Now that we have them all selected, I'm just going to press Control and G together, and it should group them. Now you'll see here we have one group. So we're going to rename this and call it drums, and I'm just going to minimize it. And there we have it. Now the drums is in a really tidy area, so if I want to change anything, I click on it and I can see all of them. So I'm just going to press on the unfold track button so I can make everything smaller and tidier. And there we have it. So now we're going to do the exact same with the bass. Literally the exact same as what we did with the drums. Now I'm going to come back to when I've done this on both of the layers, and it's just, don't worry, it's the exact same as what we did with the kick. We duplicate the tracks, so we have 4 of them, and we did the exact same settings. I'll leave the settings down in the description in case you forget them, so you don't have to go back, and I'll see you guys in 1 second. So now you can see I've grouped all the tracks together and I've done all the EQing and layering, as you can see here. Now if we play the track, here's what it should sound like. And I'm going to stop it there because if you can hear, it's quite, so to say, distortiony, and it's not the effect, it just really hurts your ears. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to session view by pressing tab, and you can see I have all the different channels. So I'm just going to make sure that I'm working in the group channels, as you can see here. And you can see when I click play, which I'm going to do, but before I do this, I'm just going to solo each one. So first we'll look at the drums. So I'm going to solo the channel and hit play. Now you can see that it just goes over the 0 mark, which we don't want. We want to just keep it below 0, so I'm going to move this arrow down a bit. And now I'm going to see what it sounds like when I hit play again. Okay, so it's still going over, so we're just going to keep it down a bit. Try it again. There we go. So now we're going to do the same with the bass. We're going to solo it, just listen to it. So it's staying quite low because it's the bass. You don't hear it too much, which is what we want. So just going to leave that as it is. Maybe take it down a bit to make it sound a bit more like bass. Now we're going to move on to the lead track. So solo that, hit play. Now you can see there, it goes really high. It goes to about 6, I think. It goes to nearly 7, and we don't want that, so we're going to bring it down quite a bit. Now let's see what happens. And you'll notice we're nearly getting there. Still at 1, so a bit more. So now, when I play them all together, go back to arrangement by pressing tab, and I press play, making sure none of them are silenced or soloed. Here's what it should sound like. So before we just leave this video off, I'm actually just going to duplicate the lead track. So what I'm going to do is take all these leads. So what I'm going to do is just go into each of these lead tracks by pressing Shift Tab, go into loop, and just press the duplicating loop. So I'm going to do this on every single track, making sure I extend the clip. There we have it. Keep duplicating, always pressing Shift Tab, and make sure you turn off the loop once you've duplicated it. Go into this one, Shift Tab, loop, duplicate loop, press loop off. And now the last one, Shift Tab, loop, duplicate loop, turn loop off, and then there we have it. So now if we click play, so I'm really starting to like the sound of this song, and as usual I'm going to finish it off here. So I'm really starting to like the sound of this house song. Now before I finish it off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the bass layer. Now we want to add a compressor to this bass group, so we're going to go to audio effects and just get the compressor and drag it on to the group, not to the individual tracks. So now you see in the bottom we have this compressor. Now we want to sidechain the bass group to the drum group. So if you simply click on sidechain, you see the button will go yellow. And instead of audio from, we're going to click on this no input, and we're going to go up, and you see these are all our tracks. So I'm going to click on drums, because that's the name of the drums group, and I click that. I'm going to change the gain to 0. I'm going to change the dry and wet to 100%. I'm going to go to the ratio and make 1.51. There you go. You want to type in 1.251 and it put in the colon by itself. Leave the attack at 2 ms and change the relay to 50 ms. Now those are all my personal preferences. You can always mess around yourself. But now if we press play, it should sound a bit crisper and nicer. So I'm really starting to like the sound of this track. I hope you are as well. And as usual, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something from it. Your comments are always appreciated because I'd love to know what I can do better and what I did well. So thank you for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed as usual. And please like, comment, subscribe, and peace.